Hello, baby. Oh my god. Oh my god. Guys, there's a fire
Oh my god, a fire?
sale
Another
Oh.
one? Oh.
at the South Coast Plaza.
At South
We've got
Coast
a-
Boutique?
Yeah, at South Coast Boutique. Amazing
Classic.
grace.
Classic show. Not on Netflix anymore, right?
What? No, Netflix owns it.
No, but they were. Hold on, I'm gonna Google this. I'm gonna break the
No,
news to you
no,
right now.
Break the
don't
news.
ruin my life.
Netflix. So, it has. Okay, so it'll be on this. It will be removed after March 2026, I think.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where is it going?
All 5 seasons of Arrested Development are no longer about to depart. So they were going to be taken off, but then they were like, okay, don't worry, you guys got it for until 2026.
They renewed it.
So there's a chance that it might just get renewed again. But I don't know. A bunch of streamers have been cutting shows that they own, like HBO. Removed a bunch of HBO Max originals and stuff like that.
Why-
So it's not out of the question.
I guess we're going back to this
well,
where we just talk about pop culture and everything.
Yeah,
but
well,
what?
'cause the reason they're doing it, the reason that they're doing it, from my understanding, are twofold.
Okay.
It's shitty, like, money saving things, and so the companies are cutting them off the streaming services because then I believe most of the time they don't have to pay the actors any residuals or royalties or anything. And then also, I think just maybe to save up server space, but I also doubt that like the fucking like an HBO Max series is taking up that much server space. Although, what do I know? I'm not a server man.
You have to ask our guy on the inside,
That's right, Mr. Server,
Mr. Algae Rhythm.
Mr. Algae Rhythm. That's right.
Yeah, the Warner Serververse
that
right?
we
That's
invented
what
before the movie.
independently.
We independently invented an evil man. I don't think his plan was the same. He wasn't planning on turning LeBron James into a tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our version was algorithm, right? Like that's
Algorithm, that's right. His
Yeah.
name was Algo. Can I just... isn't it kind of dumb that it's like in the movie he tells everyone to call him Al G, but it's like, why don't you have people call you Mr. Rhythm? Like, that sounds way cooler than
Yeah,
like,
you sound like a regular guy. If that's like, who's named Algae?
like Ali G, like Borat.
Well, those are different. Have they ever been in the same room together?
That's actually a really good question. How do we know that Ali G and Borat aren't the same people?
Is that the fan cast for our character? Is Ali G?
Yes.
Ali G plays algorithm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Wait,
go
actually,
there.
no, hold on.
'cause-
Okay, we're fan casting the Style and Direction movie, but the whole thing is Sacha Baron Cohen plays all 3 of us. So,
Yeah.
what Sacha Baron Cohen... So you got Borat, Bruno. You got the...
You don't think he would just do an Asian accent?
You get... He's only doing characters that he's done before.
Oh,
You
okay.
got the Israeli secret police guy from the TV show
Yeah,
where
This
he
Is
tricks
America or whatever.
This Is America. He played a barber in Sweeney Todd. You got also,
he is
or you could just
he's
be
a-
Isla
He's a
Fisher's
police
wife.
officer in Hugo.
Wife, husband.
My husband.
Yeah.
That's what
what
he
she
would
says.
say. I'm. Oh, yeah, you're.
Yeah, she says my wife and she says my husband.
Yeah. He also. You think King Julian would be around there? Or?
I think King Julian could be around there. So we're not. This is not a Style and Direction movie anymore. This is just the Sacha Baron Cohen verse, which I think
Yeah,
part of the
it's-
Tummy verse.
No.
Adjacent.
This happens
that's too
outside.
crazy.
This happens outside of the stomach.
Okay, but what if you eat something?
It
Well,
becomes.
it would just be the individual character of that stomach.
It'll just
Okay, there could
become.
be
It'll just
crossover.
become Ozzy and Drix, where they go inside of Bill
Oh yeah,
Murray.
that's right, Ozzy and Drix.
How about Ozzy?
Is
and
it bad to
Harriet?
name? Is it bad that the initials of that kid show is OD?
I think it's
It's
actually
about-
really
about
awful.
medicine.
Well, there's an ampersand, so
known.
it's fine.
They should have known. I
Okay.
think whoever named that show should be arrested and sent to prison.
Arrested Development.
Yeah.
I on the so to go back to the whole like HBO thing. I actually the first time I felt this was when they removed a bunch of cartoons from HBO Max, and I
Yeah.
thought that was the shittiest thing possible.
I think
they
the
so
like
many
I
good
know
stuff.
they took a bunch of Looney Tunes off. I think they are putting it back on eventually, but gotta get my tunes. I'm me.
Gotta get my tunes.
I'm a tune head. So
Yeah, you're worse than I am, right?
I love tunes. I practically live in the Tooniverse.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Yeah.
called Toontown.
It is probably just called Toontown.
Smile, darn yes, smile.
What are
We
the
gotta do we
bad
gotta do
guys
that.
in Toontown? I've never played the game. There's the
You're talking about the game Toontown,
Yes.
not the Weasel Toon Patrol.
Not
That
the
worked
Weasel
for
Toon
Judge
Patrol.
Doom. You're talking about the Cogs.
Okay, I was gonna say I think it's Cogs.
Those are kind of okay. Well, this is like this is bonus episode material.
not,
And hey,
though.
we're gonna get to the main part in a second here, but the menswear of Cogs. It was really funny is that they're like the Cogs that are cash bots have pinstripes, but they are dollar signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the marketing or the sell bots, they have a runaway collar.
Oh, good for
So
them.
no ties on that guy.
Yeah, 'cause of the
I wonder what that
marketing.
means. So do sellers not like wearing ties because they're the coolest ones, right? Like,
I think it's
that's
because they're the
difference.
cool guys and they're trying to be Hollywood and impress.
I'm looking it up right now. Toontown Cogs. I mean, I don't know. This is kind of like yuppie. I mean, it's kind of yuppie core, like technically speaking. The law bots wear navy blue suits with red bow ties. The cash bots are green pinstripe suits with dollar signs. The sell bots have a runaway collar, and then the boss bots have brown suits, pinstripes, and a dark tie.
Bossbot is a
And
pretty
they've-
cool name.
Yeah, and they've got like names like the legal eagle, the big cheese,
A
corporate
big
raider.
cheese?
The big. Jeez.
Yeah. Spin Doctor,
Hmm.
Penny Pincher. The Mingler is the only female.
The
Oh,
Mingler?
I think the Name Dropper and the Mingler, is that sexist? That's sexist, right? Like
What,
the
are
only
women
female.
known for mingling?
Well, like they're both like like the women be talking. You know what I mean? Like they're both
Women-
like the
yeah.
two canonically women. The canonically women cogs is the Name Dropper. So like, oh man, bitches be like talking about like.
I feel
who they
like
know and
I
shit.
gotta I'm gonna say that I don't think name dropping is a specifically female stereotype. I feel like that applies to both people, but mingling, I don't know about mingling.
Mingling, fraternizing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna look up a picture of the mingler because I don't want to get a boner while we record this episode. I just that
Well-
name
Well, well,
Why'd
on the
they call
opposite
you
side,
that?
why?
because I love mingle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my thing is, why can't is it they gave them those names because it would be bad to give them the other names like like okay, I get it. You can't have a woman Two-Face because that would be too sexist, right? Like that's
I also I don't know if that's the reason. This was when was this game made? Like fucking 2002 or something?
2005.
Okay, 2005. I don't think they were having these conversations in the writers' room. I got to be honest. I
You don't think
that.
you don't think that the Bechdel test was a part of the?
I get the Bechdel test. I think existed by then. I don't think they were applying the Bechdel test. Are there like what are okay? Wait, in Toontown, I gotta understand this.
Yeah.
Are there like main characters? Is there Goofy and Mickey and shit like that, or is it just like the adventures that your character is going on?
So the main those main tunes, the Mickey whatever, they are NPCs.
Okay.
They're like mayors of their own districts. Like, There's
Okay.
like Mickey's Toontown, then you got like Goofy Harbor, and then there's Donald's Dreamland, Daisy's
wow.
Gardens. Yeah, so they all have like their own places,
Donald
and
gets a
Minnie's
Dreamland,
Melody
huh?
Land.
So theoretically,
Yeah.
I'm just if you are a lady or you have a lady character, and you go
Yeah.
up and you talk to Minnie about gardening or something like that, then the game does
That
pass
passes.
that
It
passes
does pass,
the
yeah.
Bechdel test. Yeah, but does it
Yeah.
only pass if you play as a lady character? So it's like
Well, I
the
think
onus
I
is on
think
the
there's
player?
also other lady NPCs who are in the Toon Resistance who are trying to fight the
Oh,
Cogs.
the Toon
So I'm assuming,
Resistance.
yeah, you're probably talking about. I mean, I guess and Cogs have no gender. I mean, I guess technically speaking, to go back to Cogs don't
Cogs
robots,
don't
they don't
have
have gender.
And
Yeah.
do Toons have gender?
And that, hey, first off, I mean, You might say they have no gender, but these illustrations of these cogs I'm looking at are.
Again, that's why I'm not looking up the Mingler. I
Yeah,
already
don't look
know.
up the. And the Mingler's technically the hottest one.
Whoa. Okay, technically.
Okay, I mean, okay,
'Cause it's a
not to go
robot,
even
get it?
further off topic here, but I could see a cool alt girl who loves Toontown, cosplays a Mingler because it's short pink hair. Like, come on, like that's the like, come on,
Yeah. So all
someone get
old
Isabel on the
girls who
line.
love Toontown.
Yeah,
We
I
got-
mean,
we got something for you.
I've met some of those, and they're it's pretty good.
Uh-huh.
It's like the girls who like play Minecraft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Minecraft girls.
I think
Sure.
sure. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Minecraft was free, and is free technically, but Toontown you had to buy it, and that's my segue. Hello, everyone. Welcome
Okay.
to Style and Direction. 10 minutes on the fucking dot, baby.
Wow.
Welcome to Style and Direction, a menswear podcast without the stuffiness. I am Ethan M. Long.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And I'm MJ.
Welcome. It's a menswear podcast without any stuffiness. It's
None.
not about games we played when we were fifth grade. Or I was in
we
fifth
played.
grade. I
You
guess.
played it like yesterday. Don't talk about fifth grade. You still play this game.
No, when did I actually? I think I played it during my Ascot Chang time because like during the downtime I needed a game to play that could run easily on a laptop, and so one of them was Toontown rewritten, which I guess it made it free to play at that point, so it was democratized for the masses.
Okay.
But today
Well,
we are
I think
talking.
maybe we'll get into
Yes.
that something being free doesn't necessarily mean it's democratized, I guess.
That's true. That's very true. So as you've just heard, we are talking about buying things today. We're talking about specifically our buying process, how we commit to buying, how that leads to regret. Kind of touching on trends most likely, but we have a future episode on like trends and fatigue, which will close out this year, and we're only halfway through it, so you guys gotta wait 6 months for that one.
Whoa.
And a little bit about cost per wear, because that's kind of also something that we've inched on like a worm.
We're
Uh.
worms over here.
Yeah, a sniveling worm. Why are worms sniveling? Because they're like,
Because they're crawling on their bellies everywhere. It's pathetic.
is that
if you saw a man
is sniveling
crawling
mean
on his
pathetic? I
belly-
thought sniveling. I guess sniveling is different than.
but sniveling is pathetic behavior.
Yes, it's cry to cry and sniff and sniff in a feeble or fretful way.
Yeah, I'm feeble and fretful. Actually, that's the names of my two brothers.
Feeble and fretful.
Feeble and fretful.
What's up, Freeble?
Freeble?
Freeble.
What's up, free guy?
Is that what they called Ryan Gosling? Speaking of Blake Lively.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't. No one knows what that was a reference to.
We're talking about free guy right before the episode.
That's right. Not
Yeah.
about Charlize Theron.
Mm-hmm.
There's my hint for whatever that could have been about. Anyway, but yeah, let's talk about this. So buying, what goes through our minds when we're buying, and is I guess ultimately is buying necessary to participate in menswear? First off, no, you don't. Even though a lot of us tend to be buying things all the time.
We tend to be buying.
Maybe not all the time. but
It's
yeah.
not like you're not. I mean, I in my head, I think we definitely buy less than other people.
I would maybe reword this thing. I think some buying is necessary. Like
I maybe constant buying.
Yes,
Buying.
like you don't have to be always buying something. You don't have to like have something that you're like, oh, I'm saving up for this, or like you don't have to have new purchases every month. But
Yeah.
I think it would be hard to say someone is participating. Like, I don't know. Maybe you could say that they're participating in menswear if they're just like on forums and maybe going to trunk shows and stuff like that. But if they're just wearing huge basketball shorts all the time, I don't know. I really doubt that
Okay.
there's a huge number of people who fit that exact demographic of people who are really interested in online menswear communities but don't wear any clothing at all. But
Yeah, you'd at a certain point buying is not necessary to participate. I believe, because I feel like at a certain point, all three of us will stop buying as much because we'll have owned what we've wanted to own, and we'll get to that sentiment later. But there's that flip side of like for a little period of time you have to buy in a sense because that's how you evolve. That's how you expand your style. That's how you try new things. That's how you add to the canon of your expression. Unless you're like digging in the ground, you find clothes that fit what you exactly want. if that's not happening, then you probably have to buy to acquire those things. But yeah, we're going to talk about all of that. And right before this, actually, so we talked about the importance of buying. The reason why I want to talk about this, we just watched a TikTok that kind of
We just watched
reinforced
TikTok.
how important this is.
It's
So
about
it's a
how
guy,
mermaids are real.
no question mark, because it knows
Sponsored
that they are.
by Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid.
Not really.
Aquafina as Scuttle. Crazy choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, crazy.
Man, this movie... I think I'm going to see it opening night, actually. I just thought about it for a second. I'm gonna...
Thinking about Aquafina as Scuttle, you're like, I'm buying the tickets right now. is what you're saying.
just went on AMC and I bought the tickets for opening night.
Wait, why AMC? Why don't you pay even more money and go to the El Capitan
Actually,
experience?
I think that's a great idea.
Here's my thing. I think it's fun. I've only been to one El Capitan experience where I watched Monsters Inc. and they had like a crazy experience. It was so cool.
Oh, I went when I was a kid to the Monsters Inc. thing too.
Yeah. Well, I've never been since then.
Well, hold on. Have I said this? When I went on the Monsters Inc. thing, I don't know if it was the same thing that we went to, but there was a thing where you can you could practice scaring. There was like a robotic child, and you pressed a button and you scared it. And I spent a long time doing that and didn't explore any of the other exhibits, and I was so sad when my mom was like, "We gotta leave," and then
on the flip side, I don't even remember that, but there was one where you would shoot out like laundry because that's like toxic stuff, and you'd have to catch it in someone else's thing.
See, I missed
that's
out
one thing
on
I
that.
remember.
Yeah,
You see, we both found what we wanted.
Yeah, I wanted to
well,
scare.
mine was clothes.
And you
mine
wanted to
was
throw out
clothing.
laundry, and I'm a scary guy.
Yeah. I guess you have to go to Monsters University to find out just exactly how scary you are.
I just scare a lot of people by existing because they don't see me when entering a room, and then I say hello and they jump. That happens to me probably 3 times a week.
3 times a week?
Yes, that happens with a lot of times with my roommates, and sometimes with coworkers.
Hey guys! Oh fuck!
Yeah, because I'll be down in the kitchen and someone will come downstairs or come inside, and they never expect anyone. They never expect anyone.
Pretty,
Unexpected
that's
Spencer.
pretty
I
relatable.
I live there. I'm downstairs frequently, but it's I'm still always a shock.
Yeah. 4 stages of fashion. He made in the URL. Go follow him on TikTok. He says it's discovery, desire, got it, and had it.
These are
And
my favorite sizes at Cold Stone.
yeah, and he gotta have it.
Yeah.
And he
Had
says that
it is
desire.
when you poop.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the size of the toilet bowl. So desire is an important part here because that's where you get to see what you like, but you can't own it, and that kind of forces you to develop your taste and form your aesthetic. This is how you find alts. You try and do vintage, etc. And in the current, age of fashion that we're in right now, people get to skip that desire part. They get to see something through discovery, and they go right to I got it because you can buy it. Vintage is available. You can buy it. You say, oh, I just heard about Levi's 501s. Now I can just straight up buy it. There's no like, oh, I gotta hunt for this shit. But he says that skipping to the got it stage removes the foundation of why you like it, which can lead to, and which I think can lead to regret, maybe not valuing your clothes, or at least not valuing it as we do, and maybe easily casting it off in favor of other things much more easily. And so, I thought that was super fascinating. And again, I feel like whenever we talk in our Discord about buying things, I feel that our buying process is different than a lot of people. And I'm trying to try and find out why that is. And that's the whole point of the podcast. So let's start off here. What makes us decide to buy something, or what inspires that feeling? Spencer, if you want to take that one first.
Sure. I mean, really quick to piggyback off that last point that you had with the TikTok. I do think I'm piggybacking. I'm on your back right now. I think that
like Yoda.
I'm just like Grogu.
Oh, yes.
Yoda I am. But anyway, I think that having that stage
Yoda
of not being able to afford the stuff that you want, or even not necessarily not being able to afford it, but just not having immediate access to it is important. Because I think it's a great education because it like you said, it does tell you, it forces you to figure out why you like something. And so if, for example, with us, it's like we would look at these illustrations or old movies or something.
Yeah.
And then we would be like, okay, I want like this jacket with broad shoulders and a wide lapel, and I want these shirts, with the long collars and stuff like that. And we would be looking at the details and not just like, oh, I want this like one thing or something that'll make me look cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's a really great education. As for what makes me want to buy something, I don't know. I think it's a lot if I see something and can immediately be like, oh, this is how I would wear it, or it's like I could definitely see this fitting in my wardrobe. Then usually that's something that I want to get on, and especially if I can like try it. Seeing something in person is way.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's way better for me than just buying something online.
Yeah.
Do you know where you get? Maybe I guess to use the made in URL stages. Where do you find the most discovery of the things that you like? Is it usually like, I know it's the internet because that's just where our age, but like, is it from a brand? Is it a vintage photograph? Is it seeing someone like a post of someone else wearing it? Like, how do you recognize
it's like
that?
old movies, honestly, a lot of the time. Like
Okay,
I've been
yeah.
watching. Shout out to Tubi. It's free TV. But I've been watching a lot of Tubi.
I think
recently.
Peep Show is on that actually, because Peep Show is now off Hulu, but it is
Oh,
now
man.
on Tubi.
It's off
I
Hulu,
think.
but on Tubi.
Yeah, off Hulu Tubi.
It's off Who to Be. But anyways, speaking of
Write it down.
2B, B2, I don't know where I'm going
Or
with that
not-
one.
not
But-
to
or
be.
not to be. But they
Yeah.
have a great collection of like 70s like B movies and stuff like that. And
Okay.
like exploitation movies. So I've been watching a lot of those. They have a bunch of like really fun like 50s and 60s war movies. All these like these old movies that you wouldn't necessarily even see on like Criterion or HBO or something like that.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of those and getting a lot of inspiration from that. But a lot of times it's like it's not a specific. I mean, it might be a specific brand, but we've talked about this before. It's like a vibe. I'm like I'm trying to find like a specific vibe. So it's like, I have a beach bonfire going on. So I'm doing the thing that I always do where I look at, a bunch of old photos and videos of people on the beach to see like the kinds of things that they were wearing, stuff like that. And just trying to craft this vibe with clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, MJ? Where do you start to see the things that you want to buy?
A lot of the times it's the I mean, I'm just going off the notes here, but the cosplaying and looking at inspiration from my friends or people that were around. It's just that sort of thing. Like we kind of talked about this before, how like with hobbies, like the reason why you're friends with people is because you have similar views or similar interests. So when you see something that looks good on Ethan, looks good on Spencer, I can kind of imagine it looking good on myself, looking good with clothes
there's
that
precedent, right?
I own. Even if we, obviously we don't dress like each other 100%, all the time. So it's like our takes on like certain stuffs, certain items or certain aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you think for you at least you get to live vicariously through us first? Were your tastemakers? Not to be
Well,
like, I mean, like it does introduce it to you. Is that what you're saying, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm pretty sure you've said the reverse as well. For us too. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like a everybody eats sort of thing, or it's
And I'm gonna eat.
and then we're always eating. So
And we're always
it's-
eating.
Well, I think this is
We're
an
the
interesting
big
thing.
eaters.
I think one aspect about menswear, at least our approach to menswear, that makes our buying different is that I think we're, like you said, Spencer, we are looking for a vibe, which I would translate to like we're kind of just open to things. And the funny part is that we are very specific, so it's a little bit of like a oxymoron. But I share that because I think most people try and buy based on recommendations, right? Like there's an overt list, and I'm not trying to say everyone's like a sheep following a trend, but there is with men's where it's like you gotta have this. There is a fashion industry part to it where the industry pumps out these things and they say you gotta have this, you gotta buy this. But for us, since we are not exactly in there, and not saying that we're not influenced by that too, but when you get it from just watching things, you build up that want list without it being recommended to you top down. So you're kind of open to a lot of things. And so like if something is new, like for example, like 1930s ski attire, like that to me is kind of a new thing for me because I mainly bought like suits and maybe workwear, but it's related to the vibe I like, which is like 30s sportswear, which is like a mix of like rugged and tailoring. So even though it's new, I feel like this affinity for it. But it's not like saying that you had to do this. But like if I thought of myself as like a guy in the 30s or a guy trying to dress like the 30s, okay, what would he wear if he was like in the mountains or something? And so like this purchase kind of naturally makes sense. And of course, I also get it because back then they probably used magazines and probably bought stuff because they were being told to buy stuff. So I get that it's not a perfect system here.
Yeah.
But it is different for me to be like, oh, I want a tweed jacket because I saw this guy wearing it in a movie or in a photograph, as opposed to like, oh, I want this tweed jacket because the latest Drake's editorial came out and he's wearing a tweed jacket. Like, I think on that point, we just want a tweed jacket that fits this thing, as opposed to a specific tweed jacket from Drake's or a specific one from the Armory, and that makes our buying inherently different because we don't need to wait for the item to be created in a sense. Like we don't, like I'm not on the edge of my seat waiting for the Armory to make something that I've wanted because I know what I want. Like my thing is, will anyone make this jacket in ready to wear? And if not, I have to find it vintage. So like that's already making our approach, I think, a little bit different.
Yeah. No, I see this a lot, and it's something that Dye Workwear Derek has kind of fought back a lot against on Twitter. Is this idea that it's like, I mean, you see it a lot with fast fashion. It's like you know, people criticize fast fashion for being, you know, like environmentally harmful or bad for workers or something like that. And then you get all these people who are like, oh, so you're just saying that poor people shouldn't be allowed to be stylish or something, or shouldn't be allowed
or have
to wear
nice
trendy
things.
clothes or something. And first of all, like Shein isn't nice things, so like whatever. But also, I think it's fair to say that like, unfortunately, it's just the reality that not everyone is going to have access to everything, like at any socioeconomic level. Like there might be certain items that you want, like certain clothing items that you're just simply not going to be able to have or replicate until you get to a certain point. And it's like not, I don't think that's like necessarily a good thing, but it's also just kind of the reality that I think is
I mean, you can't
accept.
treat fashion as a commodity. It's
No,
not
it's
supposed to be a commodity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we've talked about this before, where occasionally we'll get someone who will be like, how do I dress like you guys on a budget of like $20 a year or something? And we just have to say, it's like, you can't. I'm sorry.
You say no.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we'll get into this later about like how much we decide is worth something, but there's a part where I'm like, I have these clothes and I did get it for cheap, but there's a chance that you probably can't because you don't have access to it, or you have to wait until eBay.
You didn't get it 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh yeah, I got this gabardine shirt for $50 at a store, and it still fits me. But nowadays, like because I bought Gab shirts now from like Joyride, and this is not a knock on Joyride, because I do think it's rarer to find now. But like they're basically double the price that they were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But of course, at the time, 10 years ago, this was basically like $100 to me because I didn't make a lot of money. So it's the inflation of it all kind of makes sense. But on that note, yeah, I'm wearing right now a chambray Brooks Brothers vintage, like maybe like 90s or early 2000s chambray shirt. Got it for like $40 on eBay, maybe 50 because I was in the bidding war. I bet you it would still be hard to find a basically dead stock chambray button-down collar shirt now.
Oh yeah.
Like I think everyone's buying Brooks now. Everyone's buying Brooks makers. That is like, that's just the unfortunate thing of all three. At least Spencer and I have gotten into this way earlier, and so we've also gotten our tastes like down, and so we were able to buy these things. And and again, we'll get into the whole vintage mindset of like if you like it and you don't, and you feel like you're gonna wear it, you should buy it right now. But yeah, but let's talk a little bit about deciding to buy something that is not in the canon. So I think we've just said that like we've developed all of our tastes. Like I like apparel arts. Apparel arts shows you a lot of things. Like there are short jackets in there. There are pullovers. There are variations of suits. So for me, I already kind of know all the suits I've always wanted. You know, the green suit. There are a bunch of green suits in the 30s. I have one now. It's DB, single breasted, etc. Khaki gabardine suit. Got it. You know, and so I've already kind of like I feel like I'm just buying the things I've always wanted. I just have the money now, and it's more popular or more easily found. Like
Yeah.
I would, like it with suit supply, right? Like I could not buy a green suit unless it was custom, and that's like a lot of money for custom. And you probably can't get the wide legs I wanted. So I probably was like, well, I'm probably never gonna own a green suit, or I'm gonna have to spend a lot of money for true bespoke, or I'm gonna have to wait until SJC or someone makes a reproduction green suit in a wide leg 30s cut that I can actually enjoy. But then you got Dave, who made the stuff. So again, it kind of
Mr.
lucked out.
Dave.
But let's talk a little bit about like the things that are not like vintage or that's not really like basics or classic menswear. Like what about like the more fashiony things? Because Spencer, you bought like Mr. Freedom, that jacket there. What inspired like that particular one? I know you don't buy designer stuff very often as much
Yeah.
as me or MJ.
Well,
but that's
'cause-
kind of a similar one.
And because it's funny, because that was like super. That was a basic. It's just like a blue chore coat.
I guess
didn't-
you're right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
that was kind of just my desire for like it was like I didn't have a blue chore coat. I didn't like. I had like tried to buy a couple like the French ones, but I didn't necessarily always like how they fit or. Like I wanted something with a more dramatic collar and stuff like that. And it was literally like I saw an Instagram post of like one of the Mr. Freedom guys wearing it on the beach or something, and I'm like, oh, I could see myself wearing a jacket like this on the beach. And then I just thought about it for a couple days, and then Joe Biden, or this might have been Donald Trump giving us a bunch of money. I think that was Trump giving us money. So sorry everybody, but Donald Trump bought me that jacket.
There you go.
And so, but that was a case of like it was just kind of the right place and the right time where I had that influx of cash where I could justify spending like $400 or whatever it was on a pretty plain blue jacket. But I mean, this is also, I think, gonna get into just how I buy things in general. But everything I buy, I kind of buy with the expectation of like, okay, I'm gonna wear this like forever. And I know we've talked about that before, but that was a case of like, okay, I don't have a blue chore coat. Why don't I just buy like my ideal like version of the blue chore coat right now?
Yeah.
And then I'll just have it. Like I didn't like it was at the point where I didn't want to like do the whole thing of like buying something else and upgrading. And that's like I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of things now. Where I mean, I'll still get like I just prefer to get the original or like the real deal. I don't necessarily. I'll still get reproductions and stuff like that in cases where it's like going to be impossible to get like the true vintage version.
Yeah.
But if I can just get the original or like the real thing, then I prefer that.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, but first, I mean, it's you're aware of Mr. Freedom. This was not like a trending item, right? This is a basic, like you said.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna characterize a lot of what we buy. Like, we do buy stuff. They are new to us in certain cases, but they're not exactly like crazy, and it's not hard for us to incorporate it into our attire. I think that's one of the differences that we have with our buying process. You know, and I don't think anyone in our Discord would disagree, but I do think that because we've been into this for such a long time, at least for me and Spencer, their idea of this is like oh, buying like that kind of truck, it's crazy because they wouldn't want that yet. You know what I mean? But this is something like in the 10 years of you being into menswear, Spencer, you don't have a short coat that you liked. So like at this stage of life, you're like, okay, well, I found one, I can afford it, and I can get this one. And I would say it's kind of the same thing for me. You know, like when I think about like let's take the green suit for example. That's something that I've always wanted. Some of my favorite illustrations are the green. They call it Love It Green. I know my suit's not Love It Green because it's not, and it's cotton. It's not like flannel, but it's something that I've always like wanted. I love the photographs of it. There's single-breasted DB versions of it all over Esquire Man, and even though like Dave is a relatively new friend of mine, and only in like the past 5 years, we've only like perfected like the wide fit, like maybe like 2 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like it is crazy because I've never owned a green suit before. Technically speaking, I had a green brown flecked Kamoshida suit that MJ now owns because I can't imagine how I ever fit into that. I fucking there's no way. But anyway, there's this idea that I've always kind of wanted it, and it's the desire was always there, and so the leap to doing it was just like, well, what's stopping me? I was in the prime position for it, and I knew I was gonna wear it, and it is probably one of my most worn suits because of how great it is. You guys see me wear the green suit all the time.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, on that note, it really is a lot of our purchases are just things that we've always wanted, and I think maybe like being the vintage part of us is like, well, I'm gonna keep holding out until I can find a vintage version, and if not, if once the desire for it reaches its apex, it's like, well, if this thing already exists and ready to wear from a designer or from like a curated vintage shop, then you're like, well, I guess I just gotta buy it at that point. Like I would say, like my black double rider is the same way, where I'm like, I thought I could like stumble into it, or I thought maybe I could eBay it, tried for years, and I just, well, I'm at Inspiration LA right now. It's right in front of me. It's like what, $400, which is a little high, but it's a deep pocket and it's Hercules, and so it was like, okay, and I bought it because
Hmm.
I wanted it right there. Um, and so yeah, I think we all try and find the vintage version as much as possible, but sometimes when the timing is just right, we just kind of do it. But a lot of people don't have that vintage mindset that they don't really languish in the desire part of it, where you know when Spencer and I would go to like Joyride or Paper Moon or Benny's, and we'd be like, okay, well, I need like a navy blue suit, but then you go there and it's either like a bunch of '50s ones which we don't like, or there's just no, he doesn't have blue suits that day or that
Hmm.
week. It's like, okay, what do I do? I'm not gonna buy a Macy's one because that would be antithetical to our authenticity. Like, why would we? That would be a waste. That would truly be a waste of money because we know we're not gonna
Hmm.
wear that. And then we don't fall forward enough for custom, but we also just can't ask Benny to make it because he's not a custom guy. It's ready to wear, and so we are pretty comfortable to like languish in this thing of like, I want this, but I literally can't have it, and that comes down to because all of the things that we want have all of these details, and it's only until later when you get to be friends with Dave, or you get to be just around more. We're better at eBay now, where you can actually just find whatever you want. And of course, Grailed exists now. The real Polo Ralph Lauren gets stuff is on there now, so it's not like there's way more options now for sure.
Hmm.
But I think that the wanting to get vintage first because it's usually a couple $100 cheaper is what puts us at like this edge of like really really emphasizing our taste, because if we like it for that long, we probably will want it later, and we probably will wear it later. We don't
Hmm.
get to just
Hmm.
buy it immediately. But on that note, does that ever happen to you guys? What's something that you guys have bought where you're like, oh, I like this thing, and I bought it? Like, what are all of
Like just
these like?
immediately, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
like
feel
where I'm talking like yeah, like discovering this thing that you've previously have not been exposed to, and then buying it.
I feel like that happens to me a lot. That's like one of the
That's
probably
more of a
bad
your thing.
habits. Yeah, that is one of my bad habits from vintage, where it's like I can be kind of impulsive with purchases. Where if I like it, like in the moment, I'm like, I really want to buy this.
Yeah.
But I make an attempt normally to like think about it for a couple days. But I mean
Yeah.
that kind of happened with the Vague Watch Company watch that I bought. Like I purchased. I mean
Oh yeah,
that
you
was
you
I
found
bought
out about it, then you bought it. I feel
like
like.
like it was a couple days, but it wasn't like literally the same day, but it was within the week. And then honestly, the same thing with like the Mr. Freedom jacket, where um, I saw the Instagram post and then I thought about it for a couple days, and then I just drove there after work and like picked it up. Um, but yeah, that's again like a very vintage collector habit of being like, okay, well, I need to buy it now, otherwise I'm never gonna have the chance again.
That is
Um,
true. I mean, that's the flip side. So like for the vintage buying experience,
mhm.
and this could be not just going to vintage stores, but like picking it. Also, it's like if you see it and you kind of like it, you should probably buy it.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't like it, it's totally fine. Like, because it's gonna be gone to the aether, but that's a double-edged sword, because then if you do like it, you'll run out on it. And this is like kind of related, but like I have this small thing of like I can save this piece. Like this is more of like a thrifting thing because I thrift more than you guys. But I found a Brooks Makers orange button down collar shirt. Not 60s, probably like late 80s or so. But I know I'm not gonna wear this orange like peach-ish shirt. But I'm like, but it's like $5, and it's like it's right here, and I want to give it life because I'm like, I could think of like 3 outfits I could wear it with, right? Like like very 60s, and wear it with like a navy blazer, gray slacks, black knit tie, right? But it's not something that I would normally reach toward, and so I had to be like, you know what? Someone else will like this. Someone else will give this life. I'm gonna not buy it. But that has been a part of some of my regrets, which we'll get into later, about like buying something because I kind of like it and I want to do it justice because I don't want it to languish here. I'm a white knight for these clothes that I think can be saved.
That's right.
But what about you, MJ? I know that you have some designer stuff. Like how do you get? What about the things that you got exposed to and then bought relatively quickly?
Yeah, I don't. It's sometimes
Plastic shoes.
Yeah, it's just it when you see it sort of thing, like it's something just clicks and you're
It
like
sings in your brain.
like and like Spencer was saying, I still I still don't see them as like impulse buys or
Like a true impulse
like
buy.
yeah, where it's just like see it, add it to cart, ship it.
Yeah, you're not scrolling on Essence and then buying it immediately. Like some
Yeah,
other people we
like
know.
I still think about it. I still look at other things that are kind of like maybe not necessarily in the same like like slot, I guess, or like a different version of this thing that I could alternatively wear. I still take a couple days to think about it and think, do I need it? What am I able to wear it with? Stuff like that,
I think that is a big part of it, is like if I can immediately see how it's gonna slot into my wardrobe and like all the things I could wear it with, then that's where I'm like, I feel like I deserve this,
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Do you do it as a treat, something, or like I haven't bought anything in a while.
I haven't done that recently because it would not be financially wise, but I did that for a while.
Yeah, I also wonder if I buy stuff as a treat because I feel like I don't go shopping, like just randomly. I'm not like going out there just to like, oh, what am I gonna buy today? I say that as someone who goes to the flea market and to the thrift store to see what I can find. So maybe that's not exactly true. But I feel like, yeah, and nothing is truly an impulse buy. Even like the designer stuff, because I don't walk into stores. I don't really online shop. I think I have kind of trying to grow out of using eBay very much. I know that we've all kind of had phases where we're just on the. I know we and Spencer we're just on eBay just buying shit because like it's all there.
Yeah.
But I think again one major part there is that we're trying to buy it pretty cheap and we're not trying to buy crazy stuff. But yeah, I mean the positive reinforcement of buying something, it's more so again, I'm buying something that I've always wanted or have had a preference or a taste for. And so I haven't been any like true impulse buys, like, I haven't been like oh, someone sends me something or I see something, I'm like, I gotta buy this right now, and it's not something I've always wanted. Usually, again, it's like this is off topic, but mine's more of a styling thing, which again contributes more to the backlog. So it's more so, oh, I see a guy wearing a blue reverse striped shirt and a brown check jacket. I don't have to buy those things. I just get up, I walk to my closet, put those two things together. There, my serotonin has been released because I can do those things. I just have that closet. I don't really have anything that I'm missing in that sense. Nothing is like, again, I'm not seeing like oh wow, I just saw the Scott Frazier thing, I'm gonna buy that shirt right now. That doesn't happen to me. I don't see Bryce Lynn's posting a thing and going, oh, I'm gonna buy that rayon shirt right now. Like that really just doesn't apply to me like that. Even me buying my M43 pants, I was pretty okay with never owning M43 pants, and then I ended up stumbling into it at a vintage sale, and so I was like, well, they're here now.
Might
so
as well.
But then that had the
Yeah.
thing for Spencer, because then you wanted them, because now you saw them in person, and you bought the
Mm-hmm.
camel ones from Bronson, and then you
Yeah.
finally, but you're like, oh, I gotta get the HBT olive ones, and then we went to Vintage Productions, and you found those ones there.
And because that was also a case of like that's when I knew that it would be way too expensive to get the camo ones. So I was like, okay, I'll compromise here, but yeah, for
The green ones, yeah, you
I'm
want
like,
the original.
I would prefer the originals, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe this is just this whole episode is Ethan flexing because it's like one of those things where I own two M43 pants now because I found one for like $50. And so
Why
like
not?
that's yeah, I'm a fucking god out there, dude. But yeah, maybe let's talk here about committing now. Let's talk about like how much time do you take? You guys have mentioned a little bit about like, oh, it took a couple of days for you to fully commit to this thing. What about other stuff like a navy jacket or something like that? Like things that are more like basics that you wanted a more investment version of. What was like the timeline there?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of fell into my lap, or not fell into my lap, but like I just suddenly had the opportunity to purchase something that I didn't have before, and that's how I got it. And that was the same case with the like my navy jacket. If we're using that as an example, I didn't really
that's
have a
right.
good, yeah, I didn't really have a great like navy blazer. And then this is when I was working at Put This On. One came into the office, and I just was like, okay, can I buy this? And so I got it at with the employee discount.
And this is your navy blazer with the crest.
Yeah, no, that was one that I bought at a vintage store in LA.
Okay.
The other one without the crest, the plain one.
Oh yeah, the that's the true hopsack one.
The
Yeah, I think.
hopsack one is from Put This On. But yeah, that one was kind of funny because that was one that I found in a vintage store, and then I was like, I didn't buy it immediately, but I was like, I need this, and so I like called the store and I was like, hey, do you guys still have this? And then got it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, MJ? What's like the long process and short process
The medium
for
process.
committing?
The long and the
I
short
mean,
of
it's
it.
kind of like how you notice things more when you're like looking for them or like thinking of them. I guess the first couple things that come to mind is like when I was looking for a jungle jacket or like like the aviator jacket. It's like you're looking for the right one or the one that you really like, and then once you find them, it's like it's no not no hesitation, but it's an easier sell to yourself to
Yeah.
buy it, because like I said, you have been looking for those things, so it's like when it comes up and it's checking all the boxes, it's
Yeah.
it's not as hard to commit to.
Yeah, I mean that definitely comes with just being aware of everything. I think that might be like the biggest cheat code where like we're not like discovering things thanks to I can only think of like Drake's and 18 not 18 East but like Drake's SFC. Like these are brands we found out because we had the taste that we have.
Mhm.
We're like like I wasn't like, whoa, Italian collar shirts, never heard of that before. Thanks, Scott. Like no, mine's like, oh, in my search for Italian knit shirts in like 1950s resort wear, I found Scott like
Mhm.
years ago. Technically, I found him because he messaged me first, but like, it was one of those things where I already had the taste, and then I found the place that has them versus, being like introduced to everything all the time.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't like abstract ties just because Drake's blew up. I liked Drake's because they made the ties that were new instead of me buying my vintage ones all the time. So. But yeah, I mean, so on a similar note with my navy blazer, I always wanted a navy blazer because it's a Pittsburgh classic, dude. And it was like in 2015, I was hanging out with a guy who, had moved to Orange County. He went to some school down there. It wasn't UCI or whatever, but he's like, "Hey, I'm a big fan of your blog." And this is 2015. It was like 1 year at that, or maybe months at that time. And he's like, "You want to go thrifting around this, in Orange County?" I'm like, cool. And it wasn't where we normally go in Orange, in downtown Orange. So I was like hanging out with this guy. We had pizza, and I found a '60s Hopsack 3-roll 2 blazer, and I'm like, holy shit, this is great. It's Patch Pocket. It actually was harmonious at the time, so that was really awesome.
Nice.
And then after that, I outgrew that like crazy. I don't know if MJ has that because MJ has the other one that I got now. Maybe Jay has it,
Maybe.
or maybe I just fucking gave it away. Who knows? But then the second one I got was thanks to Ivan. After I outgrew that first one, Ivan had it when I was in New York. Then I outgrew that one, only like a couple months later. And then I was like, well, I wasn't planning on upgrading it too fast, but I was like, I just had it. And then I was at a Goodwill and I found a perfectly fitting Hopsack jacket, and I'm like, well, now MJ can have the one that's slightly smaller. So it goes from Ivan to Ethan to MJ. And then I get this one. And so, again, I stumbled into this navy blazer, and I spent maybe a total of like $60. I paid Ivan like $50 for it. There's the initial $10 for that one from 2015, and then there's the $10 from the most recent one. And so it's not ideal, obviously. It's not, but this kind of comes with like the vintage aspect for me, where I'm like, I know I can find this thing. And if it's a basic, like a navy blazer, I feel like I can find it. Just like the same thing. I never bought a loop wheel gray sweatshirt. I know I have the one from Gap that I bought a long time ago that was MJ's for like 5 years, and I took it back because I wanted it again. But I also bought mine. I was picking for vintage. It was like $40, so vintage 60s or maybe 70s, 50/50 gray sweatshirt. Got that too. Military chinos. Oh yeah, I didn't discover them through Bryce Lenz, or I didn't discover them through Bronson. I was at the flea market and I saw a pair for $30 that Doug was like, hey, check this out. I'm like, holy shit, this is World War II chinos. So I bought World War II chinos for $30, so I get the idea that for some of us, it doesn't take a long time to commit. But I do think you guys both have a longer, or you guys consider things a little bit more, and on the flip side, you guys are more impulsive in that sense too. That's what I kind of gather. Like when you see something that you like,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could live life like that, but maybe it's because I got all this taste a long time ago. I mean, you gotta thank Spencer for sending me shit and being like, look at this thing, and I'm like, damn, I want this, and then I eventually just end up finding it. But I think the longest things for me to commit is anything that is like modern, obviously. I think with like my suits, I do think about a lot, and I'm like, I'm since I wear a suit every day, I'm very aware of if I'm gonna outgrow this thing really fast,
Right.
or I've always wanted this thing, and I'm getting to that stage in life where I want this. So for a good example is like my brown double-breasted Chris Bear suit, and that's something I've always wanted. I know that if I got a brown suit, it would have to be 4-season wear in LA, so that means I would not buy a 30s and 40s one because it's too hot. But I also would want to make sure that the maker could make a wider leg trouser. But I know at that point, and wanting Chris Bear and working in the industry, I knew that the suit would cost at least $1,500, which it ended up being when I bought it from Hall Madden. I was able to get the first one of a little bit of like an introduction friend discount thanks to Kiyoshi, but I was like the second one, I'm like, oh, I'm buying this from them. But I was able to kind of go through that process and know, what to watch out for and to really decide if I wanted it, and I know I wanted it. Dave is not able to get a Chris Bear fabric to his factory, so I was like, well, this is what I want to do. I don't feel like going for a whole new pattern somewhere else. And so stuff like that does take a while. There were a couple times with the ring jacket that took a while. Like I was debating on buying something from the Bloke for a long time, and then the Bloke went out of business, and they liquidated their stuff. It wasn't like the cheapest, but it was definitely like $600-700 compared to like it was basically like half off at that point. So like, but at the time it was during the pandemic and I was unemployed, so it was like, oh shit, like should I use my money, even if with the stimulus, should I even use it on this or should I use it for something else? But I ended up buying that ring jacket, and then Drop 93 opened up during the pandemic, so I was able to get more ring jacket for about the same price, $600, half off or whatever. And so it did turn these things that I was gonna wait a long time for into a lot shorter, into a lot more affordable price range. So I don't really buy things retail, but maybe shoes, I guess, would be the one that I took a long time for. But that's something that we've had our whole podcast episode on shoes and footwear and how the shoes really make the fit. And so that's kind of a thing where like, yeah, a 700 or I guess now $800 pair of shell cordovan shoes seems like a lot. It takes a long time to save up for. In other words, it also means that that's a long time to not be buying other things.
Yeah.
But at that time, it's like, well, I shoes make the fit if I really want to commit to being to having a good outfit and to not wear, you know, Allen Edmonds shoes that maybe not be too bad, but like, they don't fit the way I want them to or whatever. I didn't want to just buy another pair of Allen Edmonds. I would just rather buy the real one. So I bought the Alden. So like that took a little bit, but like that was like the time where I only bought shoes for the entire year because I wasn't buying other stuff.
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of like that like mental calculation of like how long should I commit to this, or is this worth the commitment? And should I buy other stuff? Like, is this really a priority for me comparing it to other things on my wish list? Um, but yeah, and on that note, I feel like buying online for me takes more thought and research than buying it in person because I feel like I don't have the essence thing of like, oh, it's on sale, I'll just buy it. For me, it's like it's too easy to buy it, so I'm incredibly more skeptical of if do I really want
Yeah.
this, you know. And even then, like I don't really buy designer or ready to wear stuff online. It's almost always eBay. It's almost always what I've always wanted. The only new things have been like shoes, and so and again that's something that's like, yeah, I should buy this because it's absolutely necessary for my style. You know, a black tassel loafer. I can't imagine my life without a black tassel loafer. We did an episode on foundational stuff, so these are all
Yeah.
foundations.
Hmm.
But let's talk about saving up now. Let's talk about the money aspect. So we talked about the time we need for it. Actually, before I actually move on, is there anything that you waited over a year for, or almost a
I
year?
think I think probably the Alden LHSs I saved. I took like $75 out of every paycheck for a little bit under a
Okay.
year, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn, that's a pretty hefty one for you.
Yeah.
But what about I guess clothing? We just get lucky, so we find it. We don't really have to like wait for it.
I mean, I in terms that's I don't know. Those are maybe the most expensive single item thing that I've ever purchased. The Alden LHSs.
What about like your M43 pants?
I mean that I just had the money for at the time, so it's like if I have the money, then I don't know. I can be I could be a little financially irresponsible sometimes.
Yeah.
So that was just a case where I was like, like I came there wanting it, and I had a general idea in my head of like how much I was going to pay for it, and the price that he quoted me was roughly in that price range, and so I was like, yeah, that's fine.
What did you spend on it again? 250?
I think
No, or
it
less.
was less than that. It was like between 150 and 175, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Which is again, that's like what I expected to pay.
Right.
I had like 150 in my head, and so when it was around there, I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
what I already prepared for.
Well, what about you, MJ? Anything that you waited over a year for?
I don't think so. Not clothes, at least.
Yeah.
I waited
mean-
like a year to buy my Switch.
Okay, that's yeah, that's like the real stuff, when it's like, oh, you see, like what in our Discord, I feel like like there's all of those like, pre-order stuff, like like the shoes, like I think Rancourt or some kind of or Quaddy
Yeah.
did like the shoes they always do like a pre-order to like guarantee that you get a spot. I get that, and
Yeah.
then I feel like for me, I found the Alden Blue Jamak, so I'm just fucking lucky, baby. Let's go. But I think for one thing I've waited for is like a brown wool suit. I know I always wore my brown cotton one. I started to outgrow it, and then I was like, and he didn't have the brown cotton anymore, and so I was like, well, I guess now I'm gonna buy a brown wool suit. I mean, I guess the same thing with the Hall Madden ones, where I was like, I'm gonna wait until I get to a stage where I meet a maker and make enough money to buy a custom suit that can do a wide leg in the crisp air. Initially, it was going to be Ascot Chang, but of course got laid off, and then they closed the LA store, so it made it really hard to do that. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep waiting around. I'm going to keep wearing my separates and my cotton suits from Fugue. But then, 2021, I was able, or maybe like late 2020, I was able to get the Hall Madden suit, or at least order it, and then I had to wait until it came in, like 4 or 5 months later because of the pandemic. But yeah, waiting for something, I don't really have had to do that. Again, the brown suit is something I've always wanted in my head. I gave up my brown suit, my previous wool brown suit, to MJ. a couple of years ago because I definitely outgrew that one. Um, I other stuff has been the kind of upgrades like with the shoes, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I waited my whole life for Saffin Core, or at least waited like a couple of years before I was actually able to commit to it. Um, but how about saving up? Spencer, you talked about already about putting money aside for your paycheck. That's a really adult way of doing this.
I mean, that's how I've always saved money. I just like I just set up like an automatic thing on like my banking app to just like put money into an account or something. Or like at my last job, I put this on the payroll thing that they use, like allowed you to set up that directly. So it's like you could set up a savings account on just the app and then like cash it out whenever you wanted. So that was pretty convenient too.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you'd rather save up and then buy it as opposed to buying it now than not buying stuff later?
Yeah, just because I don't want to. I don't know. I want to feel. I want to minimize regret, I guess. And so if I'm like,
The
if
more
I'm not,
effort you put into it, quotation marks,
it's like it'll give
regret that.
one. It was giving me time to think about. It's like, okay, do I really want to spend this much on shoes? And then also when I purchased it, it wasn't a case of like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to like eat nothing but like lentils or something for the next 6 months. Like I could still be comfortable and like buy other things if I wanted to, like, and stuff like that, and like would not be like, oh, I can't go out to dinner with friends because I'm saving up for these shoes or whatever.
Right.
So it was just a way of being able to enjoy it a little bit more.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. MJ, how do you do the same thing? Or?
Kind of like, so on the good side, yes, it just don't buy stuff and just save up until I have it. And then of course we have credit cards, so you just go into a little bit of debt here and there, or pay for it at the end of the month. But
Right.
but yeah, it's a mix. But I still don't do anything too crazy, obviously, where it's like I pay or buy something out of my pay grade, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of been the benefit of getting older, where things just start to become more accessible, I guess. Um, I am definitely the person who buys now and then doesn't buy anything later, but I think that's not because it's not immediate for me either way. I The money's already been saved up. So it's like if I say I'm gonna buy these tassel loafers, I know that I've not been buying stuff in preparation for that. So like when I get that impulse, not really impulse, but when I finally get to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go on shoemart.com and buy it right now, it's already been fine. You know what I mean? And I guess maybe like the tests have been like me. The only real tests have been, oh, I'm at the flea market and I go, oh, I see this thing, probably a good move not to buy this. That's the only real thing where I'm like, oh, I should save the money. Because otherwise, I don't really do too much. I eat at home a lot. I guess we go out to eat, but like I don't think that we go out to eat like crazy. It's only been recently that we've been like going to like a bars and stuff where like drinks are that's like a newer expense, you know. But like I feel like thankfully I already own the expensive stuff. I already bought my crazy shell cordovan shoes before I started to drink more often. So I lucked out, baby. It's already a sunk cost. But yeah, thankfully, at least for me, it doesn't really affect my other hobbies. But again, I probably am the guy who's like, oh, I probably won't get boba today because I'm trying to save the money for it. But then there's a whole thing of like, it's only $5. Boba's not $5 anymore. It's like $8. So
Yeah.
It's $8.
It's like going to Starbucks now. It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's all so goddamn expensive.
But let's talk. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. So like, while we're still on this part of it, like, how often have you guys bought like in the moment? Like, I know we talked a little bit about the impulse buying. How much of your buying is like tangible, and how much of it is online, and historically speaking as well.
Back in 1583.
I went to the town square.
Yeah. Anyway, I prefer to buy in person when I can, just because I don't like to. I don't like the anxiety that I get when I'm like waiting for something to be delivered and not sure if it's gonna fit right or if I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, you want to try it
I
on
don't-
first. As much as
Yeah, and
possible.
also I just get impatient waiting for shipping. Honestly, I hate it. And so if I can get something just right then and there, I prefer it.
Yeah.
And I think that also kind of that really adds to the sense of urgency of purchasing something. Like I was thinking that at the Scott Fraser thing, where I'm probably gonna end up buying one of his shirts like online. But at the trunk show, I was like, it's like, why don't I could just fucking get it now, and then I won't have to wait for shipping. But what saved me is he didn't have the shirt I wanted anyway, so then I couldn't get it.
Yeah,
But
physically.
if he had the shirt, I might have purchased it. I probably would have gotten it right then and there.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing about immediacy that we do fall for because of the vintage aspect of if you don't buy it right now, it'll be gone forever. And I think we're obviously at that stage where like we have a lot of the basics and stuff, so like it's not like I don't know. I don't think anything really replaces purchases in my mind. Like I don't have that kind of that shorter attention span where like my love of something gets replaced because I can't get it, so I immediately buy something else. Like again, the Gaucho thing is something that I've wanted for years, and I guess that's an example of something I waited a long time for. But what about you, MJ? So like yeah, immediate in the moment stuff. Are they almost always in person versus online? I think you buy online a little bit more.
Yeah, I do a little bit more. Yeah, I guess it's mostly things like not necessarily vintage, but I feel like the same idea applies where it's like maybe it's like not what's the word, not short printed, like small batch like items, like like going back to the plasticana like hemp clogs, like those are like small batch like sort of thing, like small stock, so it's kind of like if you want them, you should get them, because like even though it's not like a hype beast shoe drop, they probably won't come back after they're all gone, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just stuff like that. It's never been too crazy for me, I guess. Socks at Inspiration, maybe.
Oh yeah, that was truly
was-
that was truly for me like random.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
Random.
that's like I've always liked the deck socks of Tony Sylvester, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to buy. No offense, I don't think Tony listens to this, but I'm like I'm not gonna buy socks from the UK. You know what I mean? Like it's just so far, and then I see them in here, and they're still fine. These ones are great, but it's like for socks, man. Like I'm gonna buy that when I can touch it. Like I'm not buying socks online.
I gotta
They're-
touch this sock.
But I do that with Dapper Classics. But hey, if Dapper Classics was in person and they had over the calf cotton socks, I would definitely do that.
So
But
wait,
no one
over the
stocks
calf,
them.
over the counter.
Oh yeah, OTC baby,
Yeah.
OTC squared.
That's right.
But yeah, that's kind of
OTC
the
squared.
thing. I do save up to commission suits. There's never been a time where I was just talking to Dave, and then like while I'm talking, I'm like, you know what? Let's also get a plaid in there. Like I'm not that kind of thing. I don't really add on to stuff. I remember not to like expose Mark Cho, but like I was at the Armory to go buy the Badwin Lounge Sagans, which I get. That's another thing. I tried them on 1 year ago, then I came back a year later to buy them. I could have bought them online at any time, but I bought them in person. I remember that Mark was showing me all the different stuff, like, oh yeah, try on the road jacket, try on the safari jacket, try on this ring jacket, and I'm like, Mark, I'm here just for the shoes, man. I'm not buying anything.
Mark,
I'm not
baby.
buying anything else. So that's that's how it's that's how I'm able to do it. Even I guess in New York I did buy cat eye sunglasses, but I did wait a day, so I guess that wasn't super immediate. But I guess yeah, with thrifting, it's like if it fits you and you like it, you should just buy it. And like again, I was recently at the flea market. I bought brown fisherman sandals and a green plaid sack jacket. But you could argue, those are things I've always wanted because they are green plaid. Come on, I wear
Yeah.
plaid jackets all the time. And then the brown fisherman sandals, I already own the 2120 ones. I've always wanted them. I wanted fisherman
Yeah.
sandals when I saw illustrations of it. I wanted it when I saw a guy post that he had, or I saw the churches the church's sandals, I think, which are like super, they're like $1,000. And then I saw that again, I saw a friend of ours, or someone we know, make their own, and then I bought it from the store that was retailing his stuff. So I didn't even buy it directly through him because it was like a make from a different it was a make specifically for the store. But that's again just like Scott Fraser. It was an example of I like this thing, and then someone makes it at an affordable price point or an accessible price point, then I buy that thing. Like so, again everything's always been in there. Um, what about regrets? We've said a
What
lot
about
about like
regrets?
yeah, we've talked a lot about us buying stuff and waiting a long time and being careful about it. But I'm sure that we've got regrets with buying. Spencer, when have you regretted?
I'm gonna think I'm the perfect man because I can't think of that many that at least I've paid for with my money.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I can think of a couple things where it's like, no, I think I have good taste. Everything I bought has been good. Like maybe like the only times I've regretted things are if it doesn't fit right. And I can't think of many specific examples of that. I guess the first LVC denim jacket that I got, but even that's not a huge regret. I spent less than $100 on the jacket itself. I paid over $100 to try to get it fixed because it was longer than I expected. And so the next time I bought a denim jacket, which was the Bronson Type 1, I was a lot more careful. But it's really only stuff like that where it's just like, I don't think I've ever regretted something that I purchased in person.
Yeah.
I've managed to figure out how to wear everything that I've ever bought. But like if I buy stuff online, if it doesn't fit, that's the only time I regret it. It's never like I buy something and I'm like, oh fuck, I don't actually like this anymore.
Yeah.
It's just because it just doesn't fit the way I thought it would fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess when it's in person, it's like you only have yourself to blame, so you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And none of us like reselling things, so
No.
that's like
No,
the,
I don't
the
like
worst.
it.
Too
Too
much
much work.
work, and
Yeah.
then why did you buy it in the first place? In my opinion.
Yeah. So MJ, what about you? Regrets?
No, I'm perfect.
Two perfect men over here.
Well, I mean, also, like, yeah, I mean, like, even stuff that I've bought online, whether it was through the retailer or, like, eBay, it could also just be luck that, like, everything's fit right and came in, like, good condition and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this one, like,
You also are able to buy it from me.
yeah,
And you also get to try it on.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the things that I've gotten from Ethan, obviously, like, zero regret. Other than
Pre-vetted,
yeah,
man.
other than now I have to find a place for it to fit in the closet, like physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get too many regrets from tailoring. I think I regret more. I guess maybe I'm already correcting myself. But like, I do regret maybe some of like the customization choices, by which I mean like making the pants too tapered. But that's kind of like something that you don't know until you do it. So I can't really correct myself until I try it on. I'm pretty good at like altering my pattern, but I have to have a pattern to work from. And obviously algorithms don't work like that. You can't just tell it to make a wide leg pant. Like, most of them are based on body measurements, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things I've regretted in a sense. I bought the Yucatans, and I think a lot of them I don't really wear anymore. A couple of them were just too big. Because that one I definitely got engrossed in it because like these were types of shoes I've always wanted, like the paraboot style ones that he had. There were these PTBs, black PTBs, and then there were these like camp mocks, which I've always wanted, but then they were all slightly too big, and I think maybe by the time I bought them in person, my feet were already swollen, so like they kind of fit. They were fine in person, then like at home, like when you're trying it on like with your normal self, it just didn't work. So MJ has those. A lot of online stuff I sometimes have regretted. I can't really recall anything right now. I think usually it's just like the fit was wrong. I just didn't. Maybe I forgot to ask for a measurement. Like I remember, like my khaki jeans, that I bought to replace my Levi's Stay Prests. Those ones were just one size too small. I should have like double checked like the waist size on those and the rise. But that's a good example of something that I kind of regret. That's kind of just a bad purchase.
It's a
I wore them as much as I
badass
could until I ended up getting just too big for them, and then I gave them to MJ. But there's other stuff where yeah, it's mainly casual stuff I just kind of regret because I just don't wear it as much. I think as I get older, I kind of reveal what I actually like. And I try not to buy it because, like, again, like I've always liked vintage. I like short jackets. Then I'll buy a short jacket and I end up not wearing it because I mainly wear tailoring all the time. So it's like casual stuff I just don't really wear as much. However, stuff like the brand, like the USN flared dungarees, that's something that was not really impulsive. Like I've always kind of had them in my mind. I never really saw them in person until that moment, and then the ones I tried on fit me. That's kind of, and I was like, well, it's already here. I'm gonna buy these. I've always kind of wanted good jeans. It's like that's kind of a good one. But yeah, I mean, I'm at a stage right now where I'm kind of like at an apex with my purchases, and I'm only really
I'm an
trying
apex predator.
what do you got cooked up in that lab? But I'm just kind of like upgrading what I already have, and just kind of nailing down fit as my body changes. You know, like I feel like I want like a slightly roomier 501, or maybe trying to find some like other types of jeans that like fit because I think that the tapering just doesn't fit as I work out or whatever. You know. But yeah, I try not to regret too much. On that note, what do you guys think about cost per wear? Some people use cost per wear as like a way to stave off regret because like you have to really calculate, right? Like so cost per wear for it's literally in the title, but if you don't, for those of you who don't know, it is finding out how much it costs to wear something after you bought it. So if a jacket costs $100, the first time you wear it, the cost per wear is $100. The second time you wear it, you're paid $50 to wear that jacket, and of course it goes down with each time you wear it. And so, how do you guys feel about this, and do you use it?
I know that I've talked to some menswear guys who don't like that metric and get annoyed by it. I don't think I use it in the same way that other people do, but I heard the phrase and it was like, oh, that is kind of something I think about. But again, it's like the argument against it I've heard is like, oh, you shouldn't think about like that and just think about if you like it or not. But what I think is like, okay, do I see myself wearing this for like a really long time? And like when you think about it that way, it's like, okay, I'm not buying a jacket. I'm not buying this like, you know, $300, $400 jacket or something to wear this year. I'm buying it to wear for the next like 20 years. So it's like when you think about that, it's really not that much money. And so that's kind of the way I apply it more rather than trying to like do math to make my purchases and style the best it can be, I guess.
And you don't have like the crazy purchases because everything you wear is kind of like works for what you have. You don't have anything that's like this is totally out the wheelhouse.
Not really, no.
Okay.
Everything I don't buy. Yeah, I don't buy anything crazy, unexpected. I don't think.
Okay. Well, what about you, MJ? Do you use it?
It's more just like a loose way of thinking of things. I think because like you were saying, the whole like $100 and then the second time it's $50, blah blah blah. It's more just like you're just kind of weighing if you're gonna get if the price to entry is gonna get you that amount of satisfaction that you want out of the item, out of the garment. But even then it's not like, oh, I gotta wear it X amount of times or it's not worth it. But then it's like I guess once you start thinking about that sort of stuff, you already have an idea of whether you want it or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because then it's like, okay, if I care that much about like thinking about buying this item, I probably care about it a lot. So I'm gonna buy it. You know, if that makes sense.
That makes no sense. I'm gonna kill you.
I'm dead.
No, I really kind of get it because so something I thought of when I was writing this section was like Spencer. I kind of do a little bit of both. Where like I do want this to be to apply for something I wear for a long time. So like if I'm buying, usually it's a basic, right? So it's like my navy hopjack jacket. I bought my hopjack jacket was Spear and McKay, which was like was it $300, and then I bought like a Drake's one on sample sale. Thanks to our friend and patron Shane Curry. At $10, you get the extra shout out right there.
That's right.
But I bought it from there for like $500, I think $600, which was kind of the same price as what I would get from Ring Jacket, right? And And at the time, Ring Jacket was Drop 93 wasn't a thing, or maybe they just didn't have the Armory's balloon fabric, whatever. I think now they do, but I'm not replacing this. I already have the one. um, but but that's a good example of like, okay, well, this is a basics I know I'm gonna wear it all the time. Same thing with like my brown balloon jacket I got when I was in Japan, my brown suits, my navy suits, like these stuff I wear all the time. Or hell, my tassel loafers, which are pretty expensive, but I wear them almost every day. I mean, most outfits I have to choose to not wear them, because it's just so easy. Um, but like kind of like MJ, where you kind of think about like, all right, I want to buy this because I like it. It's kind of like eating at a fancy restaurant, where like, yeah, I'm I'm indulging myself and I'm buying the experience of this thing, and it's okay if I don't wear it all the time. Like maybe the food metaphor kind of falls apart about like the rewearability of it, but like buying my tuxedo or my kimono, for example, those are things that are definitely special occasion stuff. Satin core is not something I wear every day, even though I do wear it often. I'm typically in a sport coat, so that kimono from that I bought from Grailed, or even like my barber jacket, it's like I'm buying it because I know I want this thing. I am preparing myself to regret it if it comes down to it, but I know I'm not going to, and I end up not regretting it. Like I wear my barber jacket anytime it's even close to raining. I wear it at this point more than my overcoat because I love my barber jacket, and it's not super heavy. It's not wool, but so it kind of works in LA. Um, and then I have my kimono one. I wear it when a situation calls for it. Black tie adjacent stuff, or when I feel like being fancy. So it's like I know that I'm spending more than I would typically spend on a piece of clothing, but I still um it's like worth it to me. So cost per wear,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really concerned about driving it down, but I am concerned with the initial price to me.
Mm.
And if I feel like I am accomplishing what I want, accomplishing makes it sound too conceptuous. If I'm just getting what I value out of it, like
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
eating it at a fancy restaurant. It's like I am buying it because I want to experience this thing, and I'm gonna enjoy it.
Like, yeah, it's like, and the other thing is like, there in most cases I would like to buy something purely because I enjoy it, but of course, like, price does like have a factor in how much I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll enjoy something, like I'll be more willing to compromise on something if I'm spending less money on it, or if it's like vintage or something. But if I'm
Yeah.
going to be spending a lot of money on something, I'd prefer it to be exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, then that's why, yeah, for me, it's all been tailoring, it's all been shoes, and anything else, I prefer to get vintage. Like fisherman sandals. I guess I was like gonna get the same ones from 2120, but then I looked into these, but OCBDs. Like I know that there's a bunch of OCBDs out there. I can't bring myself to do it because I am too good at finding them for like between 20 and $50. I can't, and they're exactly what I want. They're vintage Brooks, not just in brand name, but in the collar roll and everything. So it's like I I I could spend like a $200 shirt, but I'm not going to because I can do it. And that might be one difference there. So the cost per wear for basic stuff like that is like it's got to be low. And especially because I know I have a lot of clothes, so like I gotta, you know, they're gonna be. I have to buy them low because I know I have a lot of clothes, so the cost per wear is still gonna be pretty static. It won't. I won't be able to drive it to zero because I'm not a pragmatic dresser. I don't buy something just to wear every single day. There is that element of like experience to it. I guess that's why like shoes, suits, and ties are something I would spend a lot of money for, or more than what a typical thing would be because I like those things for like the art of it. But t-shirts, absolutely not. Knitwear, probably not. Sweaters, OCBDs, probably not. But once you're starting into spear points, I feel like I'm paying for that privilege to
Yeah.
get like a something I exactly want. There's even before we move on
Um,
to the last section, I do want to say GQ did a story where they did rebut cost per wear. He says getting dressed ceases to be about imagination or fun or self-expression. It's just another petty cash indignity, another $4 iced coffee that you wear. I like that. I don't want to reduce my clothing to
yeah.
that idea. I want it to be like something
And
I want to spend money on because I like it. So I don't mind it
yeah,
if my
exactly.
kimono costs me $50 to wear it. I think it's worth it at that point. So if
I
he
mean,
says,
yeah,
yeah, go
it's
ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say it's like again, I kind of use cost per wear not as like, oh, I got to keep wearing this thing because I paid so much goddamn money for it. It's just more of me. That's just more of me trying to figure out. It's like, okay, am I gonna actually wear this for like a long time, or
Yeah.
something? Is this something that I can imagine with just like one outfit, or I just think the garment itself looks cool, or is it something that I could really see like integrating into my wardrobe and stuff like that? And it is kind of a way of thinking about how much I actually love this piece of clothing.
Yeah. Again, this
Yeah.
kind of goes to how our unique thing is that we have our taste for a long time so far. I mean, I don't know. We keep saying, oh, maybe when we're 30, it'll be different. I'm approaching 30 right now, dude, and I feel fine.
I just
The,
turned 62.
the GQ article says if you dig something, buy it. If you only wind up wearing it twice, you'll regret it. But for that brief pre-trigger moment when you think you might become the guy who wears balloon linen pants, math goes out the window. What takes its place? Pure possibility. I that might be too idealistic and probably a little too crazy, but there is that idea, right, where like I really like it. Like again, the kimono thing, crazy. I mean, as an overcoat, my overcoat is pragmatically better than this, or and it doesn't really go with tailoring as much. Wearing a tie with a kimono feels a little bit weird because it doesn't actually close. But I wanted that damn thing, and I was gonna do it, and that's how Sapphire Core came about. But let's close off talking about staving off regret here, and I think what are some ways that we don't do that? I think number one,
I don't
Just
do
doing
that.
as much research as possible. Yeah, doing research. I think MJ, you get it secondhand, but like you said earlier, where you get to see me and Spencer wear the things that you want, and so you're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, and it gives you that ammo for it. I would say that I probably do that with Ethan Newton, Tony Sylvester, and those guys that I like. Where at the time when I stumbled into my jungle jacket or I stumbled into the M43 pants, I already had the ammo in my head, so I knew I wasn't going to regret it. Um, and I liked them for that reason. Like I didn't have to think, oh well, OG 107s could be better. At the time, they were right in front of me. They probably cost the same amount as OG 107, so my green fatigue pant forever is now the M43. So it's like it just took that place, and I get to wear it with whatever I want. But yeah, research I think is top tier.
You gotta do your
gotta.
research. I've said
Yeah.
that many times.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, research
Do
is
your
just
research.
like watching, like you, Spencer, right? Watching movies, seeing all the stuff, and paying
Yeah.
attention to all the details.
just- yeah, and just like figuring out, like, because like a big thing that I saw Derek tweet this or something where he said it's like a big part of style is just the ability to I don't know, like communicate using the history of visual language. I guess is I think I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it's something along those lines. And so one of the big things for me when it comes to finding vibes or whatever the vibes that I want to emulate, and again, this is more gonna apply to people who are into if not vintage fashion, then like a style that relies a lot on vintage clothing. Is a lot of different styles and clothing, like individual pieces used to be kind of relegated to either people living in a certain part of the country or people who worked a certain profession and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like all these things like have like like everything has like a meaning. Like that's one of the things where every time I try to find something new that I like, I look up. It's like, okay, well, what would the kind of person who was wearing this back in the day, like what would they be doing, like where would they be wearing this to do what activity, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that even if I then decide to throw all that out the window, having that understanding at the beginning is really helpful for figuring out how I want to style the piece or how I want to wear it.
Yeah. Well, what about you, MJ?
Um,
Your research.
yeah, honestly, I don't know what else I could add. You guys kind of said it.
Yeah.
We
One
did.
thing. One thing I do think is maybe special for us. Maybe this is what Derek's kind of harping on here is that when you consume a bunch of menswear media, and I guess or just media that has fits within it, you get all the ideas. And for me, again, I just lucked out that I really liked Esquire Man, and there are so many variations of everything on there. There's pictures of guys wearing sport coats with like tall boots and with bucket hats because they're going fishing. So I'm like, okay, so I know that if I bought a bucket hat, I'll just wear it like that, you know? And then when you follow people in the menswear space, you know, again, seeing Matt Woodruff and Chase Winfrey wearing bucket hats, seeing Tony Sylvester wear a beret, and then a vintage guy that I follow will post, you know, an intellectual in the 30s with a beret. So like, there's just so much ammo that we get from that. You know, I don't have to like. It's almost like you know, I'm getting seduced all the time, as I wrote in my blog post. I don't have to rely on a brand lookbook to like, okay, because I know a lot of guys will like see a brand lookbook like Withe or whatever, see like a Western shirt and go, that's so cool, I don't know if I could wear it. Dude, I've been seeing Western shirts my whole life by looking at whatever the hell Spencer posts, and I've
been seeing Western shirts my whole life by living in the Wild West.
I mean, before, you know, if I looked at like Facebook and me and Spencer's first chats, it's just a bunch of us sending photos to each other of like, look at this thing, you know, and so now we built on that. So like, again, one aspect of research is just be aware of everything as possible. That way, when you see a brand, you'll know that you're not just liking the brand, you're liking the piece that they make. Again, referencing like SFC, you know, Simon James Cathcart with the Spearpoint polos. Spencer and I love Spearpoint polos for years before they started their thing, you know? So that's one good example. I would say the other aspect of like, you know, minimizing regret or like purchasing, you know, or getting better at purchasing, is to know your measurements, know everything as much as possible. That I would also count getting tangible with clothing as a part of this. So like, again, measuring everything yourself, measuring something that you know fits you the best, so that we can use it as like a template for other stuff. You know, measuring your best fitting jacket. So for me, it's like if I know, right, that like my shoulders are 17 and a half, or I guess now they're definitely not that. But you know, now that I know that like my Drake's jackets are a little bit oversized compared to like what I've worn before, I know that I have to measure my body and that Drake's jacket to know, okay, if I want this extended shoulder thing, this is how big the shoulders gotta be. But this is how much the waist of the jacket should be. That way it's not just a big oversized jacket, it's just the shoulders that are big, to get that effect. So like knowing all of that stuff, knowing everything, the rise, the U-rise measurements, and then, you know, and comparing it to stuff that you've already owned, wearing what you've already owned, trying to find in the store as much as possible, and maybe asking questions. I think that's something great about our Discord, where if someone says, hey, I want to buy this thing, how does it fit? Someone could probably be like, oh, it fits like this, or I own it, you know, and I typically wear this, you know, it's
yeah. Someone could be like, hey, Mr. Questions.
Yeah. It's the whole Reddit thing of like, hey, how does this fit? For reference, I'm 5'8", you know, so and so pounds. This is my shoe size. So it's like, okay, if we go off of that, you know, buying this thing should be easier for you. There's, you know, I think what helped me buy Alden's was, you know, again, trying them on, and then helping me buy other stuff, other shoes, was like, okay, if you're a this in Alden, you'll be a this in this other brand. So that again, that also helps, just getting a bunch of information for yourself. And then, lastly, I guess, do you guys have anything else to add about measurements or whatever? I mean, I feel like...
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Just like if you're going to be buying anything online, like, just know your measurements, idiot. And don't be afraid to, if something's not listed on the listing, just don't be afraid to message the seller and ask, because, you know, I don't know, you don't want to regret purchasing it.
Yeah. I mean, whenever it's online, I'm like, just try and buy something you can return as much as possible. And if it's anything else, buy in store or whatever. I will also, it's something that we do, go with a friend. That way they can give you objective advice, and you can talk yourself through stuff. Because if you talk to a salesperson about your purchase and you end up like not doing anything, I feel like you're wasting their time a little bit. And even if you come back, it still is a little bit, you know.
Depending on where you go, the salesperson might not actually know that much, or you know, like, or care. Yeah, so like, sure, if you're going to like one of the places that we like, the good places, then you might get that. But for most of the country, if you're just going to the nicest suit place you have in your town or whatever, I don't know, maybe a local suit place, but like even like a Suit Supply or something, like you're gonna have a pretty big chance of people just being like, you know, just trying to make a sale.
Yeah. And if you're listening to the podcast, you've probably been like button pocket harmony pilled, all kinds of pilled. So like, for me at least, I like to talk through my purchases. I know MJ Spencer have been there where I'm like, is this too long? Should I, you know, like, typically like to grab this jacket? Is this rise too small? How is the drape going? Poor Isabel, who has to deal with that when you guys aren't there. But all of that really does help me, determine if I'm going to buy this thing or if I'm going to buy it in the future, or just good to know for yourself, just for your own preferences. I mean, that's the best part about this is like, it's all about building what your taste is. And the stuff that you don't buy is not a waste. It just means that you just honed your taste that much further. That's like, it's not a big deal to not buy something, because it's worse to buy something that you're not going to wear. That's
like Homer Simpson.
What?
Homer Simpson.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Boner Simpson, but Lisa. Oh, that's a.
But Lisa.
Yeah.
Marge.
But hopefully this gives you guys all an insight into how we buy clothes. I know it's a little bit unique because of our vintage background, and we're at this point of our lives, we're buying stuff that we like. We're not really building a wardrobe anymore. Our wardrobe's already built. Honestly, everything we buy, we don't need it. I don't need it anymore.
I'm not a builder.
But that's why it becomes more about like that emotional connection. And if we're just gonna beat it, if it's gonna beat out other stuff, that's something I forgot to talk about. Damn it! Maybe I'll write this in the blog post. But for me, buying something, it has to, at this point in my life, it has to be equal as or more enticing than what I already own. And if it can't beat that, then it's not worth it. It's not about like, oh, I'm gonna buy it and not wear it. It's more like, okay, do I need this sweater when I already have a navy sweater or gray sweater, whatever? Is this thing I'm buying right now gonna excite me as much as these things that I already own, or is it just like, am I only feeling excitement in the moment? And that's something that I personally have to like really figure out, And thankfully most of stuff I buy are things that excite me just as much, and if they don't, they're really cheap, and I have it for when those emotional times happen, just like yellow OG 107s. It does not beat yellow OG 107s do not beat out M43 pants or gray trousers. But when the feeling comes up, I go, oh, cool. Good thing I bought these for $20 because J. Crew is crazy for doing that.
It's really nice to have like such a varied wardrobe that you can kind of pull out random things like that. That's super nice.
Yeah, that's the best part. Like, and those things, the random stuff, the emotional stuff, should be cheaper. You shouldn't be spending a lot of money on those quirky stuff unless you really want. Unless it's more of an occasion than a more of like I haven't worn these yellow pants. I'm gonna try it out. Let's have some fun. But that's the difference between the yellow pants and the kimono. The kimono's like, this is like the ultimate form, and the yellow pants are like, oh, I'm glad I got that for $20 because I can just throw it on. That's the difference. But anyway, I hope this whole conversation was interesting. We'll put some photos of like our favorite purchases, in the blog post. I'll have a little write up on my own personal philosophy on that as well on the blog. A little bit of rest. Something else I thought of and I just immediately forgot. Can't remember it. But hey, if you want to talk through the stuff with us. If you want to talk through all of the purchases with us, that's what the Discord is there for. But you can only get that if you go to patreon.com/downdirection. It's full of great people, guys who wear stuff differently than us, so they can all provide their perspectives on clothing. A couple of guys have been in the Discord where they get to affirm themselves on buying something and maybe be talked out of something that they may not actually want to wear or find themselves wearing. So it's a really good spot. Patreon.com/downdirection, $5 a month. Get access to that, plus our bonus episodes where we talk about stuff like Spencer's trip to New York, a very funny episode where we had to fire our writers because they're asking for too much money.
That's right.
We got that, and a bunch of other movie reviews that we also love doing.
We love the movies, folks.
That's right, we're there all the time. $10 a month gives you access to all of that, plus we say your name. Shane already got his, but you can say it again, MJ. Who else are we thanking?
We're thanking our Sadcast fanatics, Austin Malott, Shane Curry, Philip Gregard, Henrik Wilberg, and Alexander Batten.
That's right.
We appreciate you guys so much. If I forgot any points, because this episode was a big one, if I forgot anything, it'll be in the blog post. So that's where it'll be. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.